I'm joined here today by three fantastic panelists. So to my left, Sabrina Segal, who is the Director of Large Customer Solutions and Agency Partnerships at Bell Media. Pleasure. Shoshana Fruitman, Chief Marketing Officer for the CEA Club Group. And last but not least, Jamie Armstrong, who is the General Manager for Media Intelligence at Loblaw Advance. They're doing some great work, really innovative areas in their respective organizations that we're going to tease out in the next sort of 30 minutes. And so as you heard this morning, in the plenary session, we're operating in a very complex marketing environment and reality. And the landscape is challenging. We're all facing a lot of challenges. We've got more fragmented media challenges than ever before, more technology to choose from, now overlaid with the considerations around AI. We have to think about, how to use the data in a privacy compliant way. You're all facing pressure about budgets and getting the C-suite to say, okay, are these investments in collaboration paying off? So lots of good meaty topic there. But the reality is consumers don't care, right? Consumers don't care. We care. The consumer doesn't care because they know and they expect that we've got this all figured out. And they really just and they know that the technology exists. They know all the pieces of the puzzle exist. And they expect us to pull it together to create that fantastic experience for them. So that requires collaboration. So let's get started and we'll hear from the panelists about their respective journey. So let's start by sort of grounding ourselves, I guess, in the what and the why of what you guys are doing. So every one of you had sort of a distinct journey within your organization, pros and cons. So we'll start with Sabrina and then work our way down. But if you could please give the audience a summary, just a brief summary of your organization's collaboration initiative or initiatives, and describe sort of the initial trigger.
Bell Media, obviously being the largest Canadian media company in Canada, we've delivered great solutions for a long time, but I think the pressure and what we're seeing, what we're being asked for is to deliver stronger outcomes and really ultimately to compete with some of the global giants that are out there from a publishing perspective, whether we're talking about Google or Meta. We all know that television does work, but we are really focused on making even more valuable to the advertisers and to our agency partners. And to do that, we require a much stronger level of collaboration from a data perspective. Obviously, having Bell as our parent company, we have the tremendous ability to leverage a lot of the data that Bell provides, but that's the beginning. Proving out to from Bell, and then ultimately collaborating with EA and our client partners are going to deliver the results that we're ultimately trying to deliver outcomes from an advertising perspective. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a learning journey that we're
absolutely
engaging on. So that's great.
We're thrilled to be doing that.
Thank you, Sabrina. Shoshana, how about yourself at CAA?
So I should give a little bit of context. CAA is actually a federated model. So across the country, we've got national partnerships. Those national partners that we want to pursue don't necessarily want to have to negotiate and deal with 8 different clubs in order to come up with one offer for CAA members across the country. For example, our members save at Shell. That's one national partnership. Additionally, we have unique data and insights about our members across all of the clubs. And so there's so much opportunity for us as a federation. We get together to collaborate, share learnings, and understand sort of the power and the potential that we have. But then when we start working with a partner as well, that's where the collaboration really comes to play, because of course we have to, or we don't have to, we choose to, and have a wonderful time working with EA to help facilitate how do we identify what the full opportunity is. How do we have insights about our members that we can bring to a partner? How do we look at where the opportunity lies with a partner? How much of our member bases overlap? Where are there distinct opportunities? And do that in a way that's protective of all of that data. And so that's where we've collaborated, and it's a really exciting journey we're on with that.
Fantastic. Huge opportunities ahead. Sounds great. Jamie?
Cool. Yes. So I should probably also give some context. You may know Loblaw, but you may not know Loblaw Advance. We're a retail media network, and what that basically means is that we are selling ad space in our digital and our physical stores. But maybe more importantly, what a retail media network does is leverage its first-party data and its intelligence to connect brands to customers in the most effective way possible. And in our case, our intelligence is powered by the 16 million active PCO loyalty members, the billion transactions plus that happen in our stores annually, and the 2,400 stores across Canada. And the trigger for where we actually saw we needed to have some data collaboration is that we knew to get the most value out of that rich data set, that we actually needed to be able to leverage it outside of our ecosystem, outside of our four walls. But we weren't going to do this without extremely secure and privacy compliant technology. Loblaw is extremely protective and in safeguarding our data. So we wanted to make sure that we were delivering on that. And that's really where our journey started, searching for the right technology to be the foundation to deliver on that data collaboration.
Okay, so fast follow, and I'm just going to keep it with Jamie.
Sure.
Can you give us an example of where you've seen success, an example of success, of a positive outcome, whether acquisition, whether better ROI, whatever it might be, as a result of some of the collaboration work?
Sure. Yeah. So while most of our CPG partners want to buy ads through our ad tech, some of them want to use their own tools, use their own hands-on keyboard to buy their ad media. And in those cases, we actually have to, well, I should say, they want to do that, but they also want to leverage our data, our intelligence, to do audience targeting and media measurement at the same time. So to be able to do that, we need to be able to collaborate with our data, with media and ad tech partners to be able to do it at scale. So for example, the Trade Desk, we have a data collaboration with them to be able to receive their impressions and connect with our transactions to see what's working and how to optimize. And we're already seeing value from it, and I think our CPG partners are already seeing value from it. One very specific example is, we provide a report afterwards, or they are able to see the report in our self-serve tool. And one that I was able to find was a CPG partner saw that the impressions that were driving the most revenue were not from their loyal base or not after driving someone to purchase their product for the first time, but it was actually lapsed customers who hadn't purchased in 6 months. And those impressions were actually driving 50% more revenue to their bottom line, their brand, than those other two. And it's those sorts of unintuitive insights that are actually the most actionable and drive the most business outcome, I find.
That's great. Great example. Thank you. Sabrina, how about you? Same question. Anything that springs to mind in terms of an example of where your collaborative opportunities have led to a positive outcome?
Yes, 100%. And I think collaborative is the key word here, because I don't think any of us can really do anything alone. I mean, we obviously have the privilege of having exposure data, but really understanding if something works requires more partners. And so we actually have a great example from a retail perspective where we did combine linear television and connected TV, applied our data, and ultimately we had a great partner who was willing to give up some sales data and partner with us to actually see, and the results were astounding. And we were looking at a 19% conversion lift, which is outstanding. And then from a halo effect, we even had further conversion from that perspective at 16%. And so just a small example like that really does showcase how important it is to be able to collaborate together, to be able to prove out the outcomes and ultimately make sense from a a ROAS perspective at the end of the day. And so the more of these types of partnerships that we enter into together, I think the better it's going to be, in particular for Canadian media and for Canadian companies and Canadian data as well.
Agreed. Absolutely. And thanks for bringing that up. I think that focus on Canadian media is really important. It came up earlier today, in terms of trying to make sure that you've got the insights to be able to then target people, with Canadian content. So I think good call out there, and great examples of value driven by collaboration. Okay, Shoshana, one for you. When you're thinking about collaboration, how do you balance sort of the idea of exploring new opportunities with partners versus sort of optimizing some of the work that you're already doing? And maybe it's a blend of both. Can you just speak to that a bit?
Absolutely. So I would say it's definitely both. We go after lots of things. We have lots of big goals at CAA, and it's really a combination. So I would say for new opportunities, for example, as we collaborate with our other clubs and potential partners, we've started by really identifying and aligning on our priorities and our objectives as clubs. Where are we focused? What does the future look like? And then been able to collaborate, with EA and those clubs and partners to then leverage clean rooms and evaluate data to say, now where do we pinpoint and where are the greatest opportunities and what do we pursue next? On the flip side, internally, as we look at what we're doing from a marketing perspective and look to always optimize and continue to evolve and stay current, certainly we also work with EA to understand the data. And in that case, we know what we want to do, but we work with EA earlier in the process and have built some really robust and wonderful segmentation models to understand untapped potential and where the greatest opportunities are, and then established, okay, from what do we use and how do we tap into those markets? So a little bit of both.
That's great. Okay, thank you. So, obviously partnerships can be powerful. You're looking at a lot of different options there. But execution really kind of depends on how you set up the operating model. And Jamie, from your perspective, you talked about Loblaw being very concerned and diligent about safekeeping those data. So we talked earlier today about the fact that through our data collaboration services, we can offer a managed service. In your case, it was you were pretty focused on a self-serve model. Can you just talk a little bit more about wanting to pursue that angle and again, a little bit more focus on the technology and looking for the right tech?
Sure, yeah. So, I think in deciding whether we were going to go self-serve or managed service, I think it was helpful for us to think about where we currently were and then where we wanted to go in the future, in our future state. And when we started thinking of data collaboration, we had already built all sorts of data capabilities and ad tech stack by that point. So we had technology that we actually already wanted to integrate in with the clean room. And then when we thought about future state, I think data collaboration was such a fundamental part of our success and what we saw as our success going forward, that we had some expertise, but we were willing to jump in with sort of both feet. And where we didn't have an expertise, I wanted to develop it. So we put ourselves like a forcing mechanism to make sure we developed it by taking self-serve and getting it done.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so I know we're sort of going from topic to topic. There's a lot of topics, in this whole of data collaboration. So I want to get to the fact that, none of this can happen without trust within the organization, trust between partners. We've talked about data security, we've talked about privacy, we've talked about governance and trust with the appropriate group of stakeholders and partners to make this all happen.
Yeah, no. Trust is paramount in any aspect of media's business. I think that, we're certain in the business of ensuring that everything that we're providing to the market is fully transparent. And then, from a data perspective, the first step that we would do is actually speak with, our legal teams to ensure that we're following all the governing rules that are required from a privacy perspective. The last thing we would want is for the market to ever think that we are doing things in a different fashion. And of course, we take a lot of guidance as well from EA because of your leadership position within the market. And so it's really important to us that that is really part of our value proposition, trust and transparency. And I don't think, even if when we do a partnership, with EA or with, an advertiser or client, we provide the exposure data into the clean room and we don't see the actual matches. And it's EA as an independent company that is providing the ultimate reports. And so it's really important that trust is, again, a foundation of how we do our business. So that we continue getting, repeat business and providing proper outcome measurement. Without trust, we wouldn't be able to make that happen or collaborate.
Great. And Jamie, I'm going to throw this one back at you again around the fact that Loblaw has so much information on shoppers, such a rich database. What misconceptions around data collaboration do you have, and privacy generally, have you faced either in the past as you've embarked on this journey, or continue as you collaborate with new partners? What's coming to the forefront in terms of when they want to collaborate? What do they ask? What are they concerned about?
For sure. I think the biggest misconception that I have seen is that you can either have effective, useful data collaboration, or you have effective privacy controls in place. And I would say I was guilty of this too, that smashing two aggregated data sets together, it wasn't as effective as I had hoped that I wanted to be. So that it's the misconception that those two things are mutually exclusive. While in reality, I think it's a false trade-off, in that it's really the genius of data cleanroom technology that makes those two things simultaneously possible, through privacy preserving technology, through the operational guardrails, all those things. And honestly, the way I've been able to break through it is by having really open and candid conversations with partners, with people within the organization. And I think once they start to learn more about it, actually, they want to learn more about it because it is pretty fascinating how it all works. But ultimately, they discover that it's not really a risk. It's actually sort of a responsible way forward.
Right. Yeah. Shoshana, I know we didn't talk about this ahead of time, but I'm going to ask you for your perspective anyways, because you have a sort of a unique situation with the Federation of Clubs. And so, as much as you're using our managed service to help with that, but likely you encountered some resistance, or not even resistance, but questions. I mean, going from club to club to try to get them to bring the data together, right? Is there anything?
Certainly.
Any insights that you can share, or anecdotally or otherwise, around that, from a privacy, data security, anything else?
Yeah, I would say, I think collaboration is key when it comes to that, and having those trusted relationships. And as I'm sure you can imagine, 8 separate but related groups trying to come together, expecting everyone to be precisely aligned on what data we're comfortable sharing, whether those data sets are consistent, whether they even sit within similar systems, and then bringing them all together and aligning on which things are we all comfortable sharing, which things benefit the greater good that we're looking to build. So, it really is about making sure that we're focused and aligned on our objectives. And then, with our focus on member safety and prioritizing so highly data security for our members, we really do look for what's the bare minimum that we can do. And as Jamie talked about, what, risk, what measures can we put into place to manage the risk as much as possible, like working with a trusted partner like EA, where we've vetted and are very confident and comfortable about the security measures taken, that we can go forward with a common goal and common criteria.
Yeah, thank you. That's great. So I'm just conscious of the time, and I want to make sure we sort of continue down our own journey here on stage. But so we've looked back at your respective use cases and situations, unpacked some of the challenges, obviously huge opportunities, and then huge opportunities ahead. So let's talk about where this is going, and sort of delve into some of the advice that you might share with the audience who might be thinking about embarking on this journey themselves. So we'll start, and this is a question for all of you. So starting with Sabrina again. So looking ahead, where do you see the biggest opportunities for collaboration to reshape really how businesses are going to connect, amongst themselves, create that connected environment among all the different stakeholder groups in the best interest of customers?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that fear is a big roadblock, I think, in a lot of situations. And I think that shouldn't stop us from having the collaboration data conversations, because it's just going to make us all more intelligent as marketers from a marketing perspective. And it's actually just going to influence where we place our media dollars, at least, from my perspective at Bell Media. And I think that fear holds us back a little bit. And I think that the more that we can collaborate, not just with one or two partners, but quite frankly, with a plethora of different partners, whether we look at different industries like travel or retail or financial or auto, there's all different types of ways to make, our marketing spend and our dollars work harder and better. And so I think it's really important that we continue to have those discussions and not be afraid of those discussions, even from a competitive landscape. We need to work together to make the Canadian marketing ecosystem flourish. And so that would be my one piece of advice. Let's not shy away from having those conversations, because I think it's going to help the Canadian economy as well. The more that we can actually bring dollars back into the Canadian ecosystem and prove that they work, versus just initially going straight to, our global competitors that are out there.
That's great. So you sort of answered the two question. One was the biggest opportunity and a piece of advice, like the one thing to focus on. So, don't be afraid, get over your fears, get going and start in. So Shoshana, where do you see the biggest opportunity in terms of really transforming businesses in terms of their data collaboration journey, and one piece of advice you'd give to the audience?
So I think there's two things as far as opportunities go. You kicked off the session talking about the evolving sort of media and marketing landscape, and our audience attention is getting more and more fragmented. So more than ever, and continuing going forward, I think our ability to collaborate and share data in order to be as efficient as we talked about with those marketing dollars, have them work harder for us, to get really targeted, to really understand who we're speaking to about what, is the path forward. And the consumer expectation is that we have that level of insight. And so that does require that ongoing work. And then building on what Sabrina talked about, when it comes to those difficult conversations or thinking about who we collaborate with, when we look at the world around us, from PC Optimum and CAA membership programs, loyalty programs, financial programs, and benefits that are offered, we've done a lot of rethinking in the last few years about who is a competitor. And those lines have gotten more blurred in recent years as programs combine and partner in different ways. And so again, that opportunity to leverage a third party to say, actually, we can maybe work together and not think of each other as competitors, but come up with a way to deliver greater value where the sum is greater than the parts, and we're delivering value on both ends together, and leveraging things like clean room and collaboration on data is the way forward with that. And then as far as a piece of advice, maybe it's simple and going back to basics, but for me, it's really about nailing those objectives up front. It's sort of marketing 101. I found more than anything, if we're collaborating, but we haven't taken the time to first say, what are we each trying to accomplish? What does success look like? Do we define it the same way, or in fact, we each have a different vision of that? Makes everything harder the rest of the way through. And if we align on that stuff up front, then the rest becomes much easier.
Yeah, I love that, because you touched on two really important things there. One is, the advice is, it's almost like start with the end in mind. Why are you doing this? And make sure that, you work backwards to make sure that, you're looking at the right partners, you're looking at the right data, et cetera. And then the other key point that what I heard was, yes, you have to start reframing things. You don't just look at whom you thought were competitors, because they may hold a piece of information, a piece of data that could be very transformative for your organization. It's not an all or nothing. They don't have to give you all their data. You're not collaborating on everything. You could just be collaborating on certain things. And so they don't, it all becomes part of that, again, connected ecosystem. So that's great. Thank you. Okay, Jamie, same thing.
So opportunities-wise, I think we are seeing some businesses, some even industries, getting more comfortable and confident and adept with data collaboration. And if we project that out, I think we're going to see deeper collaboration with existing partners, building out self-serve tools, automation, but also broader, right? So deeper and broader into maybe not, in our case, competitors, because I don't think we're going to go near that, but the unintuitive partners. So while we are partnering with CPGs, there's lots of other businesses out there that are going to see the value in grocery data to understand where a customer is in their life journey, for example. And then in terms of advice, I think the theoretical stuff is all good, nailing and educating yourself and your organization on what it means to have a robust data privacy framework, all the legal and technical and operational stuff. But it's also, at least in my experience, great to just take a look at a platform like LiveRamp's Cleanroom, because it makes it a little more concrete, because then it feels a little more tangible and feels a little bit more like you understand and trust what's actually going on in the background. And that, at least in my case, really helped understand the trustworthiness and the use case for it.
Fantastic. Okay, so we have a minute and 5 seconds left. Unscripted question, not a lot of thought, top of your head. We've all been to a lot of conferences. We've all heard a lot of talk. We're here next year. A year from now, we're sitting here. What would you say is a definition of success as it relates to collaboration from your perspective? What would you like to see have happened?
Oh, wow. I can start.
Whoever can start.
Yeah, sure. I don't mind. I mean, from my perspective, I would love to be able to be on the stage next year with you, if you invite me back, first of all, and ultimately talk about all the different case studies that we have proven out by different verticals and industries when it comes to data collaboration, and ultimately see the value of the big screen once again, but with proven outcomes. I would like to transform,
connecting,
yeah,
like showing the impact
absolutely.
And media effectiveness, connecting impressions to
Yes.
outcomes, right?
Yes.
Perfect.
I would probably say something similar. Definitely, I just hope to be further along in that journey where all of this is a more natural thing. We've got more examples of, oh yeah, we worked with this group and this group and this group, and look at this wonderful new thing we did, and we've got some good, exciting things in the pipeline with the goal of delivering much greater value to members. And I would hope that by next year we'll have that many more examples of how we've done that.
That's great. I would just say that to me it's about scale, right? Something like a clean room thrives on, and data collaboration thrives on network effects. More businesses getting involved, more data availability, more discussions, more collaboration. It means better business outcomes overall.
Fantastic. Well, on that note, I'm going to say thank you very, very much. I think it's been hugely informative, so thank you.